Hey, Scott.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Kind of disappointed we didn't see any movement today.
Oh my goodness, I spent all day listening to that garbage.
Yeah.
Welcome to the wrestlers. Welcome to these nurses. Welcome to the beauty queens. Welcome to, and then of course they're talking about the abortion and all that stuff for the longest time. It was frustrating, and I'm sure it was even more frustrating for Jill being up there, hoping
God,
that
yeah.
somebody was going to do something. Let's see, that's turned off. Let me make sure I got everybody invited here. Let's check. Oh, I know what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to find this. Okay. Oh, we are actually at 7:02 already. Just turned 7:02. What a surprise. Give me 1 second. I will get open the disclaimer and then we will kind of get going. Got some good sirens going around down the street tonight. There we go. All right, let me just double check that's on. We're live streaming. Sirens are getting close. Okay. Well, like I say, we're at 7:02, just about 7:03. Now that I'm looking at my watch, we might as well get started here. I want to start by welcoming everybody who's here on the call with me this evening. We'll start with our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis, and we do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. With that said, I'll close that up. And again, welcome to everybody who's here on the call with me. Welcome to anybody that might be watching the live stream on YouTube. And also welcome to anybody that might be watching on YouTube as a recording later on. While I mentioned YouTube, I always like to point out that during our meetings, we are not monitoring the comment section on YouTube. So if you do have any questions, comments, and/or concerns, leave them down below in the comment section, off to the side, wherever it is on your device. And once YouTube is done rendering the video, we'll come back and revisit the comment section and see if we can address your questions, comments, and/or concerns. Don't have a whole lot on the agenda to speak about tonight. Our agenda tonight, though, is, we could stretch it a little bit, about the NORML Smoke the Vote Voters Guide and our South Carolina NORML Candidate Questionnaire. What I'm going to do for starters is I will start by sharing the link to the Smoke the Vote Guide down here in the chat. Oh, and I see Kyle's already sharing some links I'm going to have to go take a look at. And with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and share screens and we'll talk about this Smoke the Vote Guide here a little bit. Excuse me. Let me go find the share screen. And there we go. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. And you'll notice up here, the address we're going to is https://vote.norml.org. That is vote.norml.org. voting.normal.org. And you'll see on here, it mentions that the voting guide, this is a voting guide to legalize marijuana in your state. You can enter your address or your 9-digit zip code to see the voting guide for your actual district. But we ask what you do is actually come down here to the different states and click on where it says South Carolina. What's going to happen there is you're going to open up to what are the current elections coming up, any upcoming elections. You'll see we start right up here on top with a special South Carolina election coming up on Tuesday, May 17th. This is a race for for State House District 97. You'll see we have 2 candidates running here in the primary, one Democratic, one Republican. Razan Lewis has answered our candidate questionnaire, and so we have filled in, there's information on there. Robbie Robbins has not participated in our candidate questionnaire yet, so we have not filled in their information. Just to kind of show you how this works, if you'd like to learn a little bit about a candidate that might happen to be in your district, you can go ahead. I'm just going to open it as a new tab here, and you can go in and you can look a little bit closer. Actually, he didn't actually answer the questionnaire. I think I messaged with him. Otherwise, they'd see more info here. But you can see we've got 2 of the boxes checked. He's for medical use. He's for decrim. I've been asking him to fill out the questionnaire so I can get a little bit more detailed information. The way our grading rubric works is if they're for medical, they're basically getting a B. If they're for legalization, they get an A. Again, you'll see here, all we have is a postal box address. So I'm going to backtrack and I'll take you in to look at another one in a couple of moments. Another special election coming up is a week later on Tuesday, the 24th. This is the race for House District 18. And you'll see there's actually only one candidate listed there. So I don't know if there's really going to be much of a runoff or a vote on that one. And again, we have a candidate who has not given us any information on what their marijuana position is. As we come down a little bit lower, you'll see we've got the other upcoming elections. It's going to be the primary election. The primaries in South Carolina this year are scheduled for Tuesday, June 14th. And I believe any runoffs are scheduled then for June 28th. So if there's a tie on any of these races, they would go into June 28th. We have a number of candidates for governor. You'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 here listed as independent. We have 5 listed under the Democrats. We have 3 listed under the Republican Party. I don't think any of these actually answered the questionnaire, but I do know some of their info. I'm going to go down a little bit further. Oh, Annie hasn't answered it. Nancy hasn't answered. Judd Larkins. I'm going to go down here real quick to Judd Larkins. Judd Larkins, he's running for U.S. House. That's not the state house. That is the federal election state, the U.S. House, District 2. He is running against Joe Wilson. I do need to do some updates on this, but you'll see as we click into Judd's information, this is what many of them look like when they fill in their questionnaire, because we asked them to give us some statements on their position on marijuana legalization at federal level, as well as in general, their position on decrim, their position on medical marijuana. When I get those questionnaires back, and I'll share that with you. Let me close this. Here's what it looks like to me when I start getting the responses, when I have them all listed. So far, we've only had 10 responses, and one of them is not for a state or federal level. It's a municipal. So we're going to try and come up with a voter guide on our website for any municipal candidates that answer. Generally, what will happen is I will switch these settings to individual. There we go. So that I can come through and look at each particular person one at a time. To give you an example, let's go back to Judd just as an example. You'll see it starts off with a statement saying that the debate on marijuana policy benefits from diverse and thoughtful perspectives and assists South Carolina NORML in responding to issues with pragmatic and balanced solutions. South Carolina NORML will assess each candidate to identify their strength through the lens of our members by providing a series of questions that are important to marijuana law reform efforts. If they have any questions, they can contact us at our email address here or send any supplemental material as well as any polling information that they may have. So again, we'll ask them for their email, ask them for the candidate's name, ask them for the office they're seeking, what party they're aligned with. And again, our first question pretty much is, are you seeking an endorsement from South Carolina NORML? Their website address, a campaign mailing address, who might be their best point of contact. It's not always the candidate themselves. It might be a campaign manager, and then an address, an email address for that particular person. We are collecting phone numbers, but we aren't actually putting those into the guide at this time. Next question is, do you currently have or have you previously held public office? Of course, our incumbents are going to say yes. Depending on the candidate, it could be a yes or a no, if they've ever held office previously before or not. And then we tried to get any legislative history, if there is any. Since Judge Larkin was not has not held public office before, he really doesn't have legislative history. But he has his statement is he's publicly supported the MORE Act. So we did post that in under legislative history, I believe. Yes, under biography is actually where I put that. Do you support or oppose ending the federal prohibition of marijuana? So they can tell us if they support or oppose. And then we ask them to please provide a position statement regarding their federal prohibition of marijuana. From there, we ask them about physician authorized medical cannabis. We make a statement about over 36 US states and territories, regulated doctor recommended medical cannabis. Again, do they support or do they oppose? And we again ask them for a statement on their position. Same thing kind of goes with decriminalization, making our statement first up here, asking if they support or oppose, asking them for a statement on whether they oppose or support or oppose that as well. One last, is it last? Actually, probably not last on here. Second last on here, we do ask them about undoing the harms of prohibition. So basically, we want to know is what is their position on expungement of nonviolent marijuana possession convictions. And again, a yes or no answer on that. And again, asking them for a statement regarding the automatic expungement of nonviolent marijuana possession convictions. I want to say last but not least on the questionnaire is about regulated adult use. So although we asked them about legalization at the federal level up above, this is basically their position locally on legalization for adult use. Again, we make a statement. They get to answer support or oppose, and then they make their position statement from there. So I'm going to go backtrack here a little bit. Okay, you can see here's what it looks like before it's filled in. And I am going to actually share a link to this. Where did I hide it? Here's a link. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing as we move forward, of course, I lost chat. We will be, and actually have been, sharing out some posts here about sharing this questionnaire with your legislators. So this, again, on our Facebook page, I think all of our social media, we've posted this once or twice so far. We will be posting it more aggressively over the next week or so to all voters. The NORML Smoke the Vote candidate guide has been updated to include state and federal candidates that have filed to participate in South Carolina state's primary election scheduled for June 14th. We give the link to the voters guide for South Carolina down below. Then we say, South Carolina voters would like to know their candidate's position on cannabis law reform. Please share this link with your area candidates. Besides posting this to our social media, we will be doing an email blast to our email list throughout the state. I believe we are about 970 people on that email list now. And I've been I feel like I'm sort of been spamming y'all a little bit, just because I know we've done a couple of the past week on contact your House representative about the Compassionate Care Act. So you'll probably be getting some more emails from us as well in regard to the candidate questionnaire, asking folks to forward it off to their legislators, their local legislators. And again, you can see I use different hashtags throughout the state, try and get it spread as far as we can. Let me go back to the guide here. You will see we do have some green for people that are more supportive. We have some red for some that are not so supportive. I've tried to contact this Lauren Martell a couple of times, although again, another Republican candidate for the Attorney General seat, and we don't see any Democratic candidate for that seat at this time. But again, I've tried to contact candidate Martell to try and find out what their marijuana policy is as well, because I'm not really thrilled with Alan Wilson, as many of you probably are not as well. For some reason, this race for U.S. District 1 and Democrat and Republican are kind of split for some reason, with this Attorney General one in the middle. I was on a Zoom call through the Berkeley County Democratic Party. They had a Zoom meeting, I think it was last Saturday, with Dr. Annie Andrews on. I've been sending Dr. Andrews our questionnaire repeatedly because I am in U.S. House District 1. I am in that district, and as a constituent in that district, I want to know what the candidate's position is. She hasn't answered the questionnaire yet. She promised me on the Zoom call she'd be getting to it, but she did answer my question on that Zoom call, and we know that she is supportive of medical use decriminalization and legalization at the federal level. As well as, of course, we know Nancy Maces. Nancy Maces sponsored the States Reform Act, and so we know that she's supportive of decriminalization, or of legalization of descheduling. That's what I was looking for. And also she's made her statements about medical use and decriminalization as well. Some of the info you will find on Nancy's page is from back a couple years ago when she was running for this office. So you'll see some things that are dated back in 2019, actually co-sponsored legislation while she was a representative in South Carolina before moving to this federal level. So some of these things, like this comment here up at the top, and usually we try and link these to where they were made. If it wasn't on our candidate questionnaire, you'll see that this quote actually came from an ABC4 news article back in 2019. And talking about Tom Davis's bill, talking about Republican Peter McCoy, who had the companion bill for it at that point, and then Representative Mace, who was the representative for District 99 at the time. All right, let me scoot back out of there before I get too lost on some of this. Katie Arrington, as a matter of fact, as she has again not answered our questionnaire, I have sent it out to her. But her comments aren't linked. I'm not sure why. Oh, okay, here's some links. So she does believe it should be rescheduled to Schedule 2. Uh-oh, I think I lost my headphones here. Now they're back connected. Which rescheduling to Schedule 2 really isn't that good. It still makes it a criminal offense in most cases. We want to see it completely descheduled. That's kind of why she's only got a B, is because she's got the B for medical, but kind of gave it a little minus because of a D schedule to 2. I should probably rechange that to like an A minus, but it is what it is at the moment. Let me go back to here. And again, there's one more candidate on the Republican side for that particular race, a Linz Piper Loomis. I have nothing about them at this point, but I will get a questionnaire. I'll get the request that they fill out the questionnaire shortly. Part of my plan is to start going through this list little by little and try to send some of these out to representatives or candidates. But again, my hope is that we can actually have some of you send them out to your specific representative or candidates as a constituent in those particular districts. So keep an eye out for that email coming out probably this coming week. I'm going to scroll through this now a little bit quickly because there are like 124 seats in the House. Make sure I have the right click up there. And they do kind of go down by districts. So you'll see District 1, District 2. Again, we talked about, oh, this is US District 2. US District 3, Duncan's the only one running in that particular district. And of course, they're not really a supporter. District 4, William Timmons. I have to double check. I thought he was a little bit of a supporter, but I have to double check that one. And again, District 4, it looks like we have 1 Democrat, 1 independent, and 4 Republicans in that particular race coming up in the primary. US District 5, we have a candidate, Kevin Eckert. He is one that has filled out the questionnaire. So you will be able to click in on his and see some more information and answers on that. House District 6. 5 is split again. Ralph Norman gets a C+, who's running against this Kevin Eckert in House District 5. US House District 6, we have Jim Clyburn, who is the incumbent. He's also the House Majority Whip. I've actually emailed him a couple of times, especially when they were pushing the the House version of the MORE Act. What the whip is supposed to do is technically whip the other party members into, I don't want to say a frenzy, but into, voting along party lines, that type of thing. So they're like one step down from the speaker of the majority speaker. So that's kind of the whip's position. We see that again, there's 3 Democrats running in the primary for that, and 2 Republicans down here, again, separated for some reason by District 5. Tom Rice. And now, one of the things I want to kind of mention when we're talking about these US House rep members, I'm going to scroll back up to Nancy. Nancy Mace, District 1, U.S. House, sponsor of the States Reform Act, currently has 4 co-sponsors on that bill. Any of these other incumbents that are U.S. House members should be co-sponsors on her bill. Why? Because McKissick, who is the GOP leader here in South Carolina, says that the GOP does not support marijuana reform. But so as we kind of come down and look at these, you know, really, Joe Wilson, Jeff Duncan, William Timmons, who's incumbent in District 4? I'm guessing it's Ken Hill. Clyburn, I could sort of understand why he's not signed on as a supporter on it, only because he's, I believe, I have to double check if he co-sponsored on the MORE Act. He should have if he didn't. But anyway, any of these U.S. House district that are especially ours after the name, we should be kind of pushing them to sign on to Nancy's bill. See if we can move that forward in some way or another. You know, I don't care who gets scheduling through, whether it's Democrats, whether it's Republicans, whether it's a kind of a combination of both. It just needs to get done. It needs to get descheduled. And again, any of these that are incumbents in the U.S. House, and we have, I want to say 8 total, 7. So there's 6 House members in South Carolina that should be signing on as co-sponsors to Nancy Mace's bill. I'd love to see that happen, but so far it hasn't. Last here in U.S. House District 7 is Democrat running, actually, I'm sorry, independent running Larry Guy Hammond. We just got his information loaded in the other day as well. He seems to be a very conservative independent. And again, many times when you go over to these pages, you'll be able to find their website, follow their website through pop-ups in there, and be able to click on their issues page, and you will be able to kind of go down and read all about the candidate's position on different issues. Go back out of Larry here. But you'll see a lot of gray, and that is what I'm hoping is going to be some of our next moves coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'd like to have this all completed by no less than 2 weeks before the election. So no later than June 1st. I'd really rather try and get it completed by May 14th, a full month ahead of time. Give people a chance to then go visit the guide, and hopefully it'll help them make some decisions. But as we scroll through, you'll see there is a lot of gray. A lot of people that have not responded. I do have to go and move some of these so they're not making these so big. Put them in a different position. And that's the one thing that I've run into over the past couple of years when trying to work on the Smoke the Vote and our candidate questionnaires, is just getting candidates to answer. We had some discussion on this yesterday with National when we were on our call with them. And a couple of us other state chapter leaders are saying, how do you get them to respond? How do you get them to answer? And again, one of the big answers to that was try and get their constituents or constituents in that area to ask them to fill out the questionnaire, because they might not do it for us in general here at NORML, because we may or may not be one of their constituents. Like I said, good chance we're not, or I'm not, and I'm the one that's sending them out. And they may see we're based in the Charleston Folly Beach area and go, oh, that's not my district. I'm not going to answer that. Although I must admit, they were talking about one constituent or one candidate. I don't remember if they were an incumbent or not, but had come and saw that everything was gray on theirs, and they were like, well, why don't I have any information? Why don't I have a grade? And they said, because you didn't send us any info. You didn't fill out our questionnaire. And so they did. They filled it out, although they were in opposition and they didn't get a very good grade as far as our guide goes. They wanted to be at least included. And so that's one thing that maybe we can sort of, push that a little bit. But that's why, again, on our sheet, you'll see a lot of the candidates have green, but you don't see a whole lot of red because a lot of times the opposition just doesn't care to answer the questionnaire. Red, orange, I think there's a yellow somewhere in between for C. Oh, I just lost my headphones again. Darn these things. All right, give me one more second. I'm going to go into Zoom here and switch headphones so I can hear what y'all have to say. Okay, I don't know why my wireless ones aren't staying connected. All right. Usually when we do have color or do have an answer, they're generally an incumbent, and so we know something from either their voting record, statements they've made in public, such like that. And again, I'm going to kind of keep on scrolling here a moment because there should be 124 of these in total. There you go, 124. Oh, and I forgot, there are a couple of other at the bottom here. We do have a U.S. Senate race. Why that's not up at the top with the U.S. House race. Usually these are split House and Senate. There is one race at U.S. Senate. And you'll see here our incumbent is Tim Scott, who is not a cannabis friend. And we have 3 Democrats who are running in for that same position here. I got a message from Crystal Matthews today. Oh, I just closed the window I didn't want to close. I think she said, I support, but hasn't filled out her questionnaire yet. Crystal Matthews, where are you, Crystal? There she is, Matthews for Senate. I'm in favor. That's kind of what she sent me. So I don't know what that means. I'd really wish she would sort of fill out the questionnaire so we had a little bit more detail on that. I believe she supports descheduling as well. I know she supports more than medical use, but I know she was, if you were watching the 3M committee in the House the other week, she was one that was definitely voted for voting that through the committee positively. We'll probably see her speak some more as we get to the debates on the floor. I would love to see somebody knock Tim Scott out of that position. He's, again, not a friend of cannabis and cannabis consumers. There. Below that, because now we're about halfway down this whole thing, you're going to find all our elected officials who are currently in office, whether they're running or not. So again, that's why you'll see Lindsey Graham in here. Again, Tim Scott is running, but Lindsey Graham is not at this point. I think it's 2 years until he runs again. And so you can go through that and look at all our incumbents and get an idea of what their position may be. All right, let me turn off the share here a little bit and give me a second while I look at some of the comments in the chat. And if anybody has any questions or comments, you can turn on your mic and either ask or type them in the chat down here. Ina says that quite a few candidates don't have any opposition, and that's true. As a matter of fact, that one that I showed you Dr. Annie Andrews, who's running in my district here for US House. Like I said, I was on a Zoom call where she was a special guest the other day. Yeah, the heck is she? There we go. Has no opponent in the Democratic race. So really, she's not running in the primary. We won't actually see her name on the ballot. We shouldn't see her name on the ballot until the generals in November. And the way she put it was kind of interesting because you've got her running for the Democratic position, and then we've got 3 running for the Republican position. And a lot of times for these folks, it's about fundraising. It's about having the money to advertise and things like that. And she said, I really don't have to spend any money for the primaries because there's nobody running against me in the primaries for that seat. I can save that money, let Nancy and Katie spend their money on trying to win their party's nomination, and then hopefully let some of the wind out of their sails so that after the primaries she's got a little bit, Annie's got a little bit of an advantage because she didn't have to spend all that money on the primaries. Quite often you'll see different commentary or things about the amount of money that they bring in for a particular race. We're going to see that as well when we talk about the governor's race. Again, there's 3 running on the independent. I'm sorry, 4 running in the independent, 5 running on the Democratic Party. The 2 primary that we know of, Joe Cunningham and Mia McLeod, again, both marijuana supporters, but they'll be spending some of their coffers on battling each other through the primaries. And we hope that it doesn't weaken them too much when it comes down to running for that particular seat then later in the generals. Because again, Henry is a no as far as I know, a big time no. I haven't heard him say anything else about even this medical bill since, I want to say, late January or early February, when he was asked about would he sign it if this passed. And it was either, I don't know if it was just as it was passing out of the Senate or not. His comment was, I can't make that decision until I actually read the finalized bill, and that's going to be a while. There's going to be a lot of amendments made to it, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure which way he's going to go either. Being an election year, I'd like to think that he's either going to sign it or leave it sit on his desk, and after 30 days, it will become law, even without a signature. I think if he would veto it, that could be detrimental to his race in the generals or overall. Let me go back and kind of look a little bit more. As Josh puts it, no answer is a pretty clear no. And I'm going to say you're probably right on that, Josh. No answer often is they don't want to answer it because they are opposed. And if they are opposed, they know they're not going to get the pretty green color. They're going to get less than an A or B. Generally, they'll get a D or an F, depending on. Usually, an F is reserved for someone who has actually been either sponsored anti-legislation or has done something pretty strongly against. A good example, Alan Wilson, writing up that opinion letter for SLED last year, whenever it was, trying to deem smokable hemp as illegal because they can't tell the difference when they're smelling it burning and looking at it. I'm reading Kyle's comment down here. Yeah, keep hammering him is kind of, I think, going to be our best bet. Now, we don't have years to send something every week. You know, we've got the primaries coming up in just over 6 weeks. So, you know, we've got sort of a limited time, and that's where, again, I will be sending this out and hopefully getting constituents in those communities to hammer their candidates, whether it's their incumbent or people running against them, a number of times in that next couple of weeks. Even if you guys send it once a week and you hit them 3 or 4 times, you know, and then we'll have those answers, and we'll probably have to hit them again after the primaries, after this list gets updated. This list really won't be updated live again until 60 days before the generals. So although this will sort of wipe out as far as the elections go, the incumbents will still be listed on the Smoke the Vote guide. So we can always keep hammering the incumbents, especially if they're running, and most of the House members, I think, are running to save their seats. Let me read a few more of these down here. Yeah, good point. It's better to send it multiple times than sending it just once and giving up or letting it die at that point. Josh is saying McLeod has no chance. I know she's got some supporters. I think Joe's got a better push on it, but he also has his opposition as well. There's people that don't like Joe whatsoever. I'm just hoping we get somebody in that position as governor who's going to be more accepting to cannabis than Henry has been. And who's one of this Harrison Musselwhite. He goes as Trucker Bob, I believe it is. Let me double check that. Trucker Bob for governor, there it is. How you get Trucker Bob from Harrison Musselwhite, I'm not quite sure. But just for fun, I'm going to share the link to his candidacy website, Trucker Bob. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they get there, but that is his campaign name. And Mindy Steele, I have no idea who she is. Okay, Josh is saying McLeod has no chance. She's too progressive for South Carolina. I hate to admit it, but I think many of the Democratic candidates are probably too progressive for South Carolina. And the sad part about it is the more conservative candidates are not necessarily cannabis friendly. Now, I want to tell one little story about that, because we had our 420 event up in Somerville at the Knot Burger Pub back on 420, so last week. While we were sitting at the table, these 2 women came in. One was the chair for the Dorchester County Democratic Party, and the woman with her was, I don't know, an assistant or someone else that worked with her in that party. So they sat at the table with us and we're chatting a little bit. And there's a good way to connect with particular candidates, is know the chair of a particular county party, and they will pass along our questionnaire, hopefully, for them. Matter of fact, just as we were starting the meeting, I got a message from the chair of the Berkeley County Democratic Party asking for an email because they have one of their candidates who wanted to share their position. And so I shot back to them to see if I can find where it is. Oh, that was through our Google Voice. To ask them to fill out our questionnaire, share the link with them to our questionnaire. And that way it can go where I can easily find it and ask them the specific questions we like to ask them. Oh, so while we were there at the 420 event, at one point, I mean, we were doing giveaways. I was handing out these raffle tickets, and we were giving away some of the different merch. Primarily, we gave out a bunch of the emerging clinical applications books to people in the place. We have a new item in our store called the Vape Trap. It's a sploof, a personal air filter to exhale into, some t-shirts. So we were giving away a couple of goodies that night. And it was kind of interesting because not all the people were there for us. As a matter of fact, we did give away one of the items was the Dope Man board game. I have one hidden under here. And it happened to go to an older couple. I handed it to a woman. And when I say older, folks, remember, I'm in my mid-60s. So I think this woman was probably edging towards 80, maybe a little younger than that, maybe in her mid-70s. And later in the evening, as I'm packing out of there and I'm dragging my little handcart of stuff out, this same couple, this woman and her husband, were leaving. And I noticed she didn't have the game in her hand. And so I did a little look back over my shoulder. Well, she gifted it to the bar staff. So someone in the bar ended up having that as a prize. But I jokingly said to her, "What, you guys aren't going to go home and play Dope Man the board game?" And she kind of laughed. She's like, "No, we gave it to the bar staff and or the bartender or whatever." And I was a little kidding with her. I thought it was kind of humorous. But some people, like I say, weren't there for NORML. But I was giving everybody raffle tickets, giving everybody a chance to win a prize of some sort. So anyway, as we were doing that, I think I was sitting down at the table next to this woman from Dorchester County Democratic Party, and she sees two fellas walking. Well, we all see two fellas kind of walk in. One was pretty much a suit and tie, and the other one more or less a short sleeve dress shirt without a jacket on. And she goes, "Oh, the Republicans are here." And I kind of looked over. I don't remember if I must have taken them raffle tickets, but I didn't recognize them at the time. Well, a little bit later, before the two Republicans were ready to leave, they stopped by the table to say hello to this woman, Jen from the Democratic Party. And I happened to recognize one of them. I'm Facebook friends with this guy, CJ Westbrook, I think is his name. And him and the other fellow in the suit was the chair for the Dorchester County Republican Party. And they were both talking to us about they are pro-marijuana, pro-legalization, but that they are basically younger than many of the others. And they felt that as some of the old people sort of aged out of the process or out of the party, that the shift will come towards more support for marijuana legalization or marijuana law reform. So if nothing else, that was kind of a good thing to hear, because we see it in the polls already. The voters, the Republican registered voters or people that voted Republican in the primaries was I believe it was 74% supported marijuana law reform. I don't know if it was specifically medical and or for decriminalization or what. I know there's a link to it on our Facebook page somewhere down the line. But I thought that was kind of interesting because they did stop, they did come over and say hello. Like I said, at that point is when I realized I knew one of them. And it's nice to hear that you know, I'm reading comments again. That's why my little delay. Everyone enjoys free marijuana information. Well, I don't know how many of the actual sitting legislators are the same age as the people that they represent. Good example. One I'm learning to like less and less, and I'm hoping we can sort of turn him around a little is Vic Dabney. I think I want to say Kershaw County, but I'm not exactly sure. If you watch the 3M committee debates, I think he filed like over 130 amendments and got shut down on them like pretty hard. Matter of fact, the majority of them, they were deemed as dilatory, which basically means they were meant to just cause delay. And so they kept going through and saying, well, this batch here, we deem them dilatory, and this batch here, and they would vote on it, and they'd eventually fail those particular amendments. So somewhere around 30, he actually ended up just giving up and saying, okay, I'm not going to push any more of these amendments. And even of the first 30 that he was able to kind of push, all but one failed, only one passed. And he talks about in his campaign page and stuff, being supportive of the Second Amendment and of freedom and of minimized government and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to cannabis, he doesn't really care about your freedoms in that respect. And another thing that I kind of noticed, especially in those debates he was talking about, he's got some issues with his hands shaking. He can't control his hand. And that scared me because this is a guy who wants to have a handgun, wants to have guns. And I'm worried about him being able to control them and then being safe around people. And I don't think the person, one of the people that was giving testimony, I think wanted to sort of suggest cannabis to him, but their time on the clock ran out. But I have posted stuff about cannabis on his Facebook. I'm on both. I know on his personal page and on his candidacy page. As a matter of fact, today I kind of posted one because he has a post on there about, we know sugar is bad for you, but we're not going to stop people from sugar. And I'm like, well, cannabis is safer than sugar. Why are you trying to stop people from consuming cannabis? He doesn't generally respond to me, but he's starting to know who the hell I am, if nothing else. And I don't think I sent him one of the books yet. I did send one off to the Attorney General a few weeks back because his wife he and his wife had made an announcement that she had been diagnosed with cancer and was going through cancer treatment. And I didn't want to be a jerk about it necessarily, but I wanted to send the book. I actually bookmarked it to the section that would be pertinent for them, which would have been, let me open it because I have it marked in my book here as a matter of fact as well. Gliomas and cancer. Because again, and again, I sent him the book, but I also sent along well wishes and saying, best of luck with this. And in all sincerity, I don't wish anybody ill will. But what I found and what many of you probably realize is that as it becomes a personal issue for legislators, whether it's themselves or one of their loved ones, and they find that cannabis is beneficial, their thinking starts to evolve. Their opinions start to evolve. We've seen that a number of times throughout the years. Where, like I say, it's a personal thing. Good example, a couple years back, Pete McCoy, Republican representative, House member here in Charleston area, co-sponsor of the Compassionate Care Act, not co-sponsor, sponsor of the companion bill, basically a duplicate of Tom Davis's bill. Of course, when he got moved on to, I want to say, U.S. Attorney, and then Herb Kurzman came in as a sponsor of the companion bill this session. And as you saw, his bill didn't go anywhere, although his bill did include smoking and home grow. Oh no, not home grow, flower available in the dispensaries. The House just sat on it because they knew that it was the Senate bill that was going to make more motion because Tom Davis has been pushing it for years now. Now, I didn't catch that. Josh says it's funny how they'll admit using CBD, not knowing it's cannabis. I don't know if I've taken note of that and any legislators at this point, but that is a good point. They might say, oh, well, there's CBD. My fear sometimes on that, though, and I heard somebody else saying this, is it's a little bit of a fear. Well, they're saying, well, CBD works. What do you need this other stuff for? Because it doesn't always work as well as, a broad spectrum with a little bit of more THC in it. Many times that helps better. And I think I know that's why Jill Swing has been pushing so hard for this medical bill, because she was very prominent in pushing the CBD bill that passed back in, I want to say 2016, for her daughter. But CBD does not work as well for her daughter as medical marijuana does, or as marijuana does. She has taken her daughter out of state to be under a cannabis doctor's care, and has tried cannabis with her daughter, or for her daughter, and it seemed to have better effect. I didn't go into any real depth on it with her when I did discuss it with her. I just asked her basically, was it beneficial? And she said, yes, it was. Josh's comment, marijuana is not a drug, it's a natural supplement. I call it an herbal remedy. And again, the FDA does not approve or disprove herbal remedies. It's not what they do. And that's the biggest argument that we get from a lot of our opposition. Well, if it was FDA approved, FDA approval starts with research. Research has been hampered by the DEA, who controls research into cannabis. And even then, even if they were allowed in research, the FDA basically approves compounds, not whole plants. It should be regulated at most by the Department of Agriculture. Don't get me started. I'll ramble on that stuff for a while. Holy crap, I see it's almost 8 o'clock here. I didn't realize I was talking so much. Let me stop here for a second, and just before we kind of slow things down, ask if anybody has any other questions and or comments on the Smoke the Vote guide or on our candidate questionnaire. Any other suggestions? And I like this. I thank you all, and I appreciate the suggestions that we've gotten so far on trying to spread this. Joey, I see your mic's off. Do you have something to say, or on? I'm not hearing you.
I'll say something.
Okay. Hi, Ina.
Hey, this is Ina. Yeah, I had messaged my House representative, Duncan, I guess that's the name. And he sent me a letter back basically saying, why he didn't vote for the MORE Act. And, he said he didn't like the decriminalization, letting too many people, expunging too much records because he, and, they're trying to set people free, decriminalized it, but he didn't agree with all that. And then also he said there's other priorities, why would they be looking at that when there's other priorities,
And you're absolutely right on that. I've had folks in the past say, well, why didn't they just pass it in the Obama administration? Why didn't they do it then? He said he was for it, blah, blah, blah. I believe it was just like the first third of his first term where the Democrats had full control of both the House and the Senate, and they have other priorities. Marijuana is not necessarily a legislative priority for either party. It's one of those like, once we get this other stuff taken care of, then maybe we'll get to it. As much as a priority it might be for us and for more people, geez, what was it this time with Biden, who's been no friend to cannabis over the decades either. But the, rebuilding infrastructure and that kind of stuff has been kind of on the top of their list, and moving that sort of stuff forward. Marijuana's down the line a little bit. And by the time sometimes you get down the line a little bit, those tables switch. I mean, the MORE Act moving from the House, voted out of the House, was great, but now it's voted, now it's in the Senate, and it's going to be a tough sell because they would need every single Democrat to vote for it, plus 10 Republicans. And they didn't have every single Democrat vote for it in the House. 2 of them did not. 2 Republicans did vote for it in the House. But if those percentages kind of stick in the Senate, it's not going to happen. It's not going to pass. There's just not enough support. And what you said is very true on some of it. Is many of them don't like the reparative justice language in there, which leads, talks about expungement. I forget the bill number and even who sponsored it, but there is one Republican sponsored descheduling bill besides Nancy Mace's, and it includes absolutely no reparative justice language whatsoever. It is strictly deschedule it, and nothing about helping
Yeah, it
anybody who's been
says,
thrown in
it says,
jail.
he says it says it's I'm kind of skipping to the third paragraph. He says the legislation removes cannabis as a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substance Act and retroactively applies to any offense committed, case pending, and conviction entered, which is why I could not support it. Not only would this legislation require federal courts to expunge prior nonviolent cannabis convictions and conduct resentencing hearing, potentially leading to early release of drug traffickers and cartel heads. It also funnels taxpayer money to marijuana industry, making federal grants and loans available for cannabis-related businesses and service providers. He said the timing on this legislation is distasteful, given other current events Congress should be focusing on, like reining in debt, inflation, and energy, and sanctioning Russia. Instead, Democrats choose to focus on marijuana. And it's just, I don't know, it's just the same old song and dance.
Pretty much the same old song and dance, and a lot of that, some of that anyway, in my opinion, is a little bit less than truthful, because I know the language in the MORE Act is not to let everybody out of prison automatically, and the cartel leaders and stuff like that. It's to let out non-violent offenders, not people that have committed any major offensive crimes. I mean, you've got people that are in for life because of the 3 strikes crap from the 1994 crime bill. And what are the 3 strikes? Selling a $20 bag of weed 3 times in a row and getting caught.
I agree, because this thing ain't going away, and we're going to have to deal with it sooner or later. I mean, putting it off and everything. And I think I might write him back. I said, okay, we'll support Nancy Base's bill then.
Well,
it's already passed. See, he's a member of the House, so it's already passed the House. So he can't do nothing about it. No way.
Well, the MORE Act, yeah, but Nancy's bill hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to say, if you don't support that, well, what about supporting her,
Right, signing on to Nancy's bill, and I'd have to look up the third one. And that's one of the issues too, is Nancy's bill does have some restorative justice language in it and talks about expungement. It would be the other one. Let me go ahead and find that real quick.
I think that's just a talking point saying that they have other priorities. There should be other priorities. Because I saw another House member, that Jim Jordan guy from, I think he's from California or whatever, I don't know, said the same thing. So they have their talking points.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why what we hear a lot of times, even here in the state, is they talk about if the FDA would approve, they're being dishonest with that, because again, as I mentioned earlier, the FDA doesn't approve whole plants, and FDA approval, it starts with research, and it is the enforcement agency, the DEA, that controls who can even research it, and the ones that issues permits for that. Hell, I'm not finding it, and I've got a Jerry Nadler bill, and that's the wrong one.
Well, that's okay. I'm just saying, he did, after about a month of me writing him, through that NORML page for the MORE Act, a month later, he's actually sent me a little letter, which is nice, but I don't know. I'm so disappointed with them, that make no sense, to be not decriminalize or reschedule it.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. It's just going to take a while.
It's coming. It is going to take a while. I think it's going to take, I mean, we've got to look at, we've got what, 36 states now with medical, 37, I forget exactly. And I think 11 with full work adult use. So it is coming. but it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
As Josh just
When you
pointed,
got over 50% of the states involved, to me, that would be it's not necessarily a crisis, but other issues he's talking about are crisis.
mhm,
This is still, we got over half the states going into this, going involved with this, and it's not going away. It's just getting more and more involved. I attended a cannabis industry extraction seminar, and I've been attending some of these seminars about processing and doing extraction and different things. Man, these people are involved now. Massachusetts one was from Massachusetts, and it's all northern states, but man, they got it going on. They know what they're doing, and they all ready. I'm thinking, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to get ready?
and it's sad because, the South Carolina is going to be so far behind the ball. A lot of these others, whether it's through investments or, starting businesses or things like that, they've got so many steps ahead of the people in South Carolina. I don't know. It's just going to be a real challenge once they do pass some legalization here. And even when they deschedule, because descheduling is going to be a plus for us in the state, although it won't change anything on the South Carolina Constitution. It will definitely help our argument. It'll sway a lot more people in our position. And it will take away that argument that we always hear of, well, it's still federally illegal. It's still federally illegal. We hear that a lot as an argument from our opposition. Let me look here real quick. Kyle's asking about the hemp farmers in South Carolina and the lawsuit. I have heard nothing about that yet. I know I had invited them to speak with us in February at the at our press conference. I did talk to them a little bit, and they eventually declined. They thought it would probably not be beneficial to their case to be too outspoken at the moment. I also want to mention what Josh kind of mentioned here. As Josh says, give us a vote. It'd be nice if we had the ability to have a voter referendum at a referendum vote at state level, but again, the South Carolina Constitution does not allow for that. That's why we can only do municipal initiatives here. And when you mentioned Schumer, I'm just freaking aggravated with Schumer. In February or so, he says, "Oh, we're going to announce the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. We're going to reintroduce that. We're going to introduce that officially in April." And then comes out, I think it was the 1st of April or somewhere in there, early April, and says, "Oh, we're going to do it in August. We'll do it in August, just before the break, just before August." Just frustrating as can be. Again, even the people that say they're supportive don't seem to really be putting the effort into supporting when it comes to legislators. So anyway, where are we at? We are a little bit past 8 o'clock. I am going to start wrapping it up here. I am going to just remind you all to keep an eye out for either on our social media, specific or most probably our Facebook page, because I post more there, and also keep an eye out on your email boxes in the next week or so for an email that will be sending you again that link for our candidate questionnaire. And I'm going to set it up like we've done our action alert. Well, I can't do it just for the action alert because that's only going to go to incumbents. I'm going to set up an action alert too. So we'll set up an action alert to write your incumbents and asking them to complete the candidate questionnaire. And also we'll send out an email that gives you that information to hopefully send out to any candidates that you find in your community. Or like I say, refer back to the voter guide and find out who the candidates are in your district, and send that right to them as well. Say, hey, I'm going to be voting for someone in this this race. and I'd rather it be someone who supports marijuana. Would you please fill out this questionnaire and do it now? Kind of funny comment on that is one, I got an email a couple nights ago. Somebody had filled out a questionnaire and sent it. And I happened to see, oh, good, I got somebody else signed the questionnaire, filled out the questionnaire. But I didn't just like jump on it right away and go over to the Smoke the Vote back end and update it on Smoke the Vote. It took me over 24 hours. And the next evening, I'm getting an email from the guy going, hey, you got it wrong. I'm not against. I'm like, dude, I know. I saw it in there that it said you were completely against. And I thought that was wrong. And that's why I think I sent him the link to begin with. I just haven't updated it yet. Give me a chance to breathe. I'll get it updated for you. And so after that email, I updated it for him like almost immediately. But yeah, it's not something that once they fill in the questionnaire, it automatically updates. I have to go in and manually do that. And some days I just have other things to do. And so I don't get a chance to jump on it immediately. But that's what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, do keep the pressure on your House members to support the Compassionate Care Act. As much as it's the worst medical bill in the nation, South Carolina's at least got to move forward and hopefully pass this session. And even if it passes, we've got a long way to work on it as it moves down the road over the next couple of years. And then we still have our goals on working towards primarily decriminalization at the municipal level is where NORML is going to be focusing our efforts. But yes, in the meantime, definitely keep an eye out on your House members. If you haven't sent in if you haven't sent the action alert to ask them to support, please do that. Keep the pressure on. That should kind of hopefully resolve in the next few days. I don't know if they'll be able to finish it this week because we only have 2 more days left. Actually, 1 more. I don't think they actually meet on Fridays. So hopefully they'll get started with it tomorrow. They may bump some of it out to either Monday or Tuesday of next week. I know the 3M committee actually came in on a Monday to work on it. I don't think they'll get the full House to do that, so that'll probably bump into the following week. But we are running out of time, I believe, and I don't know off exactly, but I think end of sessions like May 12th or somewhere in there. So it has to be passed by the end of session, or they got to start all over from scratch again next January. So definitely keep the pressure on your House members on moving the.
That'd be so ridiculous to go through all that trouble and then just not pass it. That's just, I can't believe that. And then if they do pass it, the DHEC is going to get real involved and all that regulatory stuff. That's going to be something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine them not at least passing it through. I can't imagine them holding it up. I just can't imagine doing that. But I guess
there's apparently enough of members of the House that just are not for it. So they're dragging their feet and they're like, we don't need to debate this. Leave it go.
Oh man.
Let's talk about abortion. Oh God. Or whatever else they were talking about today. Let's introduce the doctor of the day. Anyway, don't get me started on that, man. I sat here all day. Thankfully, I had work I had to do that I couldn't really leave my desk too much anyway, because I have to kind of watch the scanning machine next to me while I'm scanning film. And if it jams up, it stops production. So I have to sit here and kind of keep an ear and listen for it if it starts to hang up. So I had one ear with a headphone in listening to debates, another ear kind of listening to my machine to make sure it kept running. And it was just like, why am I listening to this stuff today? Get to the marijuana. And that's probably what I'll end up doing a good portion of tomorrow as well, is just sitting there and listening and waiting for them to get going on this medical marijuana bill.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Hey, can I elaborate on what I was asking Kyle just so he can maybe do some research?
Sure.
There's a lawsuit against the Attorney General's office of South Carolina brought by the hemp farmers, more so the people that handles the production or processing of the plant at the point to where they strip it down, taking out all the terpenes and what they want out of the plant, it makes the THC content way above what it's legal in South Carolina. So they're trying to, keep them from doing that process. Well, I believe they won, but I haven't seen anything official on it yet. But that's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. The best person to talk to me with that, and I'll see if I can reach out to Cody Callerman. As a hemp farmer, he would probably be, and he's very, politically involved. He may have some more info on that. Matter of fact, I'm wearing Cody's shirt today for.
Cal, I'll try to find it, send it to you.
Okay, appreciate that, Josh. And you have Kyle's contact info? We're friends on Facebook or something?
Yeah, on Facebook.
All righty, cool. Appreciate that. All right, well, I'm gonna kind of call it quits. I gotta go refill my drink and I'm getting a little bit ready to kind of hit the couch. So, guys, you will again probably see some posts coming up on Facebook the next couple of days and an email or two coming out from NORML, South Carolina NORML. Besides that, look forward to chatting with me again or chatting with you all again next Wednesday at 7 o'clock as we generally do. And again, don't forget to follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, newsletter, all that stuff. And then see you back here next Wednesday. Thanks everybody for joining me. Love having you here. Really appreciate it.